Hey guys, I'm Trixie, aka the Thoughtful Beast. Today I'm here with Leah. She's here to talk about
Hi.
combating anti-Blackness in the Filipino community. We are both Filipino, and so I'm very excited to talk about this. Before we do that, Leah, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi guys. My name is Leah Lombos. I full-time I do graphic design, some photo, video, social media, and outside of that, I am a filmmaker. So I do a lot of writing, directing, dabbled in currently in casting right now, but overall, my goal and dream is to be a filmmaker to really bring right representation in terms of people of color, the POC, especially Filipinos, and the right representation of that. So that's my passion. Currently residing in San Diego right now, which is a great community overall, and just all about connecting with creatives and always learning and growing about our community and so forth. Yeah.
Yay! I'm so glad you're here, Leah.
I'm happy to be
Back
here.
again. um, it's so good to have you again, and I'm excited to talk about this because I feel like we've been like posting like kind of the same things in our little like
Yeah.
FDS, oh no, SDFC thing. I was like, wait, my letters. But yeah, so I totally want to talk to you about like what's been your experience with kind of
Mhm.
transversing again like the anti-Blackness in our own culture.
Yeah, this is like, I mean, it's a lot. For me, I feel like I'm a generally empathetic person.
Mm.
So, already before when I was seeing like just what was, Black people getting murdered by the hands of police, and just it when Black Lives Matter started, and learning more about that was really frustrating. But I knew it was like I would talk on Twitter, repost stuff, like, but I think it came to this point, and I wish it came to me sooner, that how much more systemic it was, and looking into our culture. And I think, where do I play a part in that, and realizing my own privilege, because I could share things and just go on my day, but especially in the Black community, like, this is what they live with every day. You can't do basic things without the fear of being harassed, being killed, and that's not something that's ever crossed my mind, even though I am Filipino and a woman of color, because we do have a privilege. And so I think with these recent events, I've been educating myself more on how to be a better ally, and then really looking into the anti-Blackness in our Filipino community, the history of that, attending panels. Shout out to Panayism for having that great panel about combating anti-Blackness. That, I mean, I was in tears. I know Trixie too. We were chatting and we're like, oh my God, we're crying, because it's this realization of like how much that maybe we've benefited or looked the other way, and probably promoted like anti-Blackness, down to, we're going to get more into it, but from the color to of our skin to celebrating Black culture, but turning your head away from the really more serious things. And I think this is the time for change, now that the great thing about social media is that we are able to be much more responsive, to see things, to learn things. So I think that's where my place is. It's about, as sympathetic I knew I wanted to be a better ally. I wanted to be more aware. I want to learn and voice out and not be afraid. That's the big thing too, I feel, is just voicing out, calling things out, not being afraid to, I don't know, just have proper discussions, and not feel like, oh no, we shouldn't talk about this because it's uncomfortable. We should talk about it because this is happening in our world. When we don't talk about it, I mean, silence is terrible in a sense, because you're not speaking up of the issues that's happening in our community, especially in with our Black community and our Black brothers and sisters. Yeah.
Yeah, and I so agree with you so much. And like Panay, like it was so good. Like, and part of the reason like I cried too is just like it made me feel so good that there's like our community was trying so freaking hard, like to like that people like literally like wanted to understand like that in itself. Like also like I feel like they made like a spiritual, very like human connection. They really tried to draw like they really tried to draw into our history, but also like our ancestry, and kind of just be like, I felt like they highlighted like the great part of our ancestry, and then like illuminated all this part of our history that people might not even know about that relate us to the Black community, like Aidas and like literally that they're like, and they call them negritos, and how they are indigenous people to the Philippines. And like I know that, and it's just like, like, and having everyone just like having so many people, like I can't remember how many people there were a lot of people. I want to say hundreds, definitely
there was a lot of people,
but there's definitely hundreds like of people who are just like Filipinos who are just like, like what can we do, because like obviously we have a hand in this, like the question was very much is like, how do we fight our own anti-Blackness? Like it wasn't about like fighting whether or not there was anti-Blackness in our community, and like if it was important. It was just where like there definitely is. So like how can we fight this? And like their panelists like were so great. Like they're ranging from like educational, like historic facts into like personal like stories. I can't remember. Oh crap. Nope, it went away. See, I read it again, but like personal stories of people on the panel, and just like it was great. I thought they picked great people to have on the panel. I like loved listening to it. Like again, like it just made me so happy that people were so, like they were so invested, and even the panelists themselves, like some of them were very like emotionally invested, and they're just like, we need, like we're all supposed to be together, and like we've been ignoring the fact that you're right, like our Black brothers and sisters have been like have been mistreated, like, and that's an understatement, for like the longest time. And we have had the privilege to just be like, you see it on the news, right? Like, like Martin, you see it in the news and you think it's sad, it's super sad, and then we get to go away from it. Whereas like that before, it's just like the Black community, they don't get to do that.
Nope.
Like they don't get to walk away from it. And so like, like realizing that, and then like just realizing that even is like a big thing, and just like definitely like it just I feel like there's a lot of like real eye-opening, and not just like looking away anymore, but just trying to really look at like a lot of self-reflection. Exactly.
It is.
That's such like a big,
it all starts with us, and it's interesting because easily one can say like, well, and I'm sure you hear it, people, they say, well, that's not my problem, like, but that is very harmful, because like, honestly, all lives don't matter till Black lives matter. Like, it's so true. And they've gone through a history of just like, I mean, being brought as slaves, and even with the abolishment of slavery wasn't really an abolishment. They were seen as criminals. Then you got the segregation. Then even after civil rights movement, they couldn't get housing. They were put in these sections where like there was no investments in schools. Like, they're in compare, and then like that whole drug war going on, and it's like there was no sort of solution. Like it would just kept getting worse in a different way, down to the point of, police brutality has been happening for a while, but now it's only we're capturing it now, or people are capturing it now because of our phones, but it's been happening. And so maybe it had to take seeing these things visually for us to be like, oh, shoot, and I'm glad there's the access of information, but it really comes down to what can we do in our community and ourselves, and it's like yeah, a big thing was I think about one thing in anti-Blackness in our Filipino community is the praise of having light skin, you know, the praise of being, if you're mestiza, if you're half white mestiza, then you will be and I have a lot of mestiza friends who some I know are so great and so Filipino and so woke even, so I'm not gonna categorize and put them in boxes like, oh, if you're mestiza then you're ignorant. No, not like that, but just the the I would say
I'm
the
trying to find the
praise
words
they
here.
get. I know,
Yeah,
not
it's
necessarily
like they're
praise,
like
but
they're like
uh,
yeah, glorified. They are glorified. Like their white
glorified.
skin is
Yes,
glorified.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And you look at the Philippine entertainment industry, and I remember like I did not like watching. Ooh, let's just go into that. I did not like watching because I'm tan. I mean, and my computer doesn't seem like it, but I'm tanner than I was like, I look pretty light, but I'm not gonna praise that.
She's way
I'm
darker
pretty
than me. I would have said that.
yeah, I'm tan, and I remember like my mom would used to tell me like don't go out of the sun too much, or like a lot of my mom's side of the family is very light skin and my dad's side is dark skin, and so I got darker features, and I remember like I would be brought home papaya soap, where you look at, like you said, looking at the TV and seeing that. I was like, what? But looking at the TV and seeing that what represents entertainment does not represent the actual Filipino citizens in the Philippines, you know?
Yeah.
Like these are all mestiza, light skinned Filipinos that were glorified, and that's why products such as papaya soap, such as Bello, all that like is selling the markets, because in our minds, in our culture, we believe that if you're lighter, you're prettier, and that colorism is already anti-Blackness in itself, you know?
Yeah.
Like, mm-hmm.
Exactly. And like like what Emma said, it's inherent in our colonial mentality, right? Because like that's the thing that happened. Like the white people came, they were our
The Spaniards, right? Yeah,
The
yeah.
Spaniards came, and then the white people came to free us. And so
Liberate us, whatever. Yeah.
liberate us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, you know, like just that, and you know, the fact that like people like even now, right? Like America is like, ooh, like America, that's where you want to be. You know, like I feel like there's so many things in Filipino culture, like on TV, especially now, that is very like they try to be very Western. You know, they try to be very
Yes.
westernized.
There we go.
And like that definitely plays into the whole like super light skin thing. Like I feel like every time I see a freaking like actress, or even like political, like anyone in politics in the Philippines, you know, like newscasters, and then like, you know, like even like Miss Philippines and stuff, a lot of the time it's just like, you are way lighter than like where's your pigment? Like it kind of becomes that. It's just like, dude, where's your pigment? Like you literally
where's
like
your melanin? Right.
Yeah, like where did it go? Because you know, like I say it too. Like my mom did that to me. She had me. I didn't use papaya soap. I have no idea what it was called. It was like white, and it had like different colored like tops. Like I don't know. It was really weird.
Bello? Is it like blue and pink and like?
Yeah, like the tops are blue. Like
it's that is Bello. Yes.
So like, you know, like my mom had me bleach my skin for like a long time because she told me it was for my acne. And then I was like, okay, you know,
so true. It's good for your skin. You have a lot of pimples. This will work.
Yeah. And so I used it because I was like, well, I do have acne. But like I didn't like, but really, like I think it was supposed to be also good for that, but like it definitely like it bleached my skin, because my mom did not like that when I was a child. I played outside a lot, like a lot. Like it's really strange because when I look at my pictures back from when I was like in middle school, I am way darker than I am now. Like a good amount darker. So like that's also really strange. But like yeah, like it's definitely a problem, right? Like, and it's really weird to think that when people see Filipinos like in magazines and stuff like that, if they're famous and stuff, they're light. They're all light. And like
they're all light.
Yeah. And some people don't even know what a Filipino is in the first place. And so when they see these Filipinos, they're like, oh, they're like they're super light skin. And it's just like, they're really not. But they're not. They're not.
No, we're not. No, we're not. No.
Yeah, like they're like,
I get real tan. Yeah.
yeah, like they're 10 like shades lighter than I am. Like it's true. Like, because that's what
true.
that's what the bleaching does. Like, because it takes away all the brown. Like there's gonna be no brown. So like, yeah, that's definitely super embedded in there. And that like is a practice that, you know, like again, like both of our parents did, like a lot of our parents did that to us, like not even telling us, like, which is also a thing, because it's like I feel like you knew that was bad then, but you did it anyway.
Right. That is so interesting that you brought up like, oh, this is good for your skin, this is good for your pimples. Because that's what my mom said too, you know, that's exactly what my mom said. And I was just like, as a teenager, okay, you know, and eventually, I mean, I'm kind of grateful it didn't work that well, you know, but they would come home with boxes of the Bello products. And it skincare became the trademark of skincare in the Philippines. Oh, Bello, like, you know, oh, go to Bello if you have like so you can get better skin and all. And that's just not it, you know. It's not right. I remember this actress and model named Asia Jackson. I think that's her last name. I've been following her, but she had the movement because she's half Black, half Filipina. She's gorgeous. She's beautiful, and she had a movement called Magandang Morenix, and it's praising, you know, having darker skin, because before she would be made fun of by other Filipinas because she was half Black, and that ain't right, because she was dark, and that's like that's not, excuse me, like, and that stems from, again, like Emma says it here about the colonial mentality, the just like believing that white is better, and I mean that's like a universe, but it's not that is not the way we should look at beauty. I remember eventually I just was like, I love my skin. I love the fact I could go out, I can get like tan without getting sunburned, you know. Some people have to go into tanning boots to like get tan, and I don't have to worry about crazy that. But it really starts from there.
And it's so like weird because it's such like an elitist thing too, right? Like you know, it's such an elitist thing. And when you think about, like, you know, a lot, like half of my family comes, like they're like literally live on the mountain province, right? Like they're literally like working there. Like they're darker because they work outside. Like a lot of Filipinos work outside. Like a lot of them do harvest, a lot of them do fishing. Like it's super weird because it's like, obviously, like the working class, you're not going to be light. But because, you know, like that's seen as so like, you know, like white skin means like you're richer. And it's like, again, like with the colonialism and everything, like it sucks. It's like they freaking work outside all day, right? And like that's part of their life. And then they go home and like bleach their skin, even though like that's what's happening to them outside is like natural. Like it's natural. Also, bleaching your skin is not good for you. Like,
oh no, it hurts.
That clear. It's not good for your skin. Like it's not good for your skin. I'm gonna throw up a comment. I used to have a Miranda Barbie doll that I loved, and it got made fun of by my playmates and my playmates' mom. We need to unlearn this centuries-old colonial mentality of skin color. It's a very important discussion. Yeah, like, yeah, it's just like so crazy because it's so like we are perpetuating our own hate of ourselves, like through anti-Blackness. Like it's super weird, right? Like people, like you said, a lot of people go like, that's not my problem. You know, like that's not my problem. It's just like, yes, Filipinos, this is your problem. Like it is inherent, like, and because of those things, because of, you know, like bleaching our skin and stuff like that, you might not think you're racist, but you do definitely have like anti-Black thoughts and like probably behaviors that you just don't, you know, you don't think like, and that's what this whole thing is about. It's just kind of like admitting our ignorance, you know, and like admitting our ignorance, admitting like the looking away so that we can actually look forward and look at what's happening and learn better, because problems don't go away if you just keep pretending they don't exist. Like they super exist.
Yeah. they and it's been existing, and I think it even comes down to talking about Filipino Americans now. It comes down to, well, first off, our education system is that we see it from a white person's lens. They don't talk about Black history. I learned all this stuff about incapable of getting housing and just being in different sections, and or all this through the documentary I watched, the 13th document. Oh my God, I was like in tears because I was just angry, that this has been history, and we didn't learn this, in our history classes. And they make the civil rights movement like so long ago when it wasn't, like those people, those racist people that we were harassing the civil rights leaders, or those protests, and all that. Those are grandparents of people our age, and that is so near. Like, this is in the 60s, and that is not long ago. And so it's coming to be aware of, like, this is recent history, and then this is still happening to this day in similar fashion, and we can't turn away. We have to have the uncomfortable conversations, and it starts with our family, right? Because our family can, I don't know if you've heard this, like there's these like kind of stereotypical, like, well, look at us, we work hard and we're not like this or that, or criminals, when Black people are not criminals, or like they shouldn't be seen like that. It's very systemic, and it's all because of what media has portrayed them. It's because what the ignorance that we have, when really we need to look in ourselves and again have the conversations of just what's going on in this country, what's going on, the unfairness in it.
I want to go back to you were talking about like 13. So 13 is like documentary. It's on Netflix. Like Netflix right now, it pops up all like a bunch of documentaries related to Black history, the Black Lives Matter movement. It's great. Go check out like Netflix, everyone, because it's here.
Like, watch it after.
Yeah, like that documentary, like it's definitely all about how basically slavery never ended. Basically, what happened was America got crafty and just changed it. Like Leah alluded to before, like the war on drugs, like how the fact that like, like it's insane that it's just like so many Black people are in prison for just having weed on them. And then also in the same time, like our culture shows, like think about like TV, just think about TV and how like a lot of it is like college bros, like smoking bongs and blah, blah, blah. And like for them, like it's seen as just like, oh, they're just kids. But if it was like a Black young gentleman, or it's like literally a person of color doing that, it's like criminal.
Right.
And like that's been like a true thing. And then like the school to jail pipeline and how that's a thing. Like there's so many different ways where like our country is just, we ended slavery, right? But then like basically it's kind of spoiling the documentary, but like still watched it. But basically it's like, yes, slavery has changed. It just like has changed costumes. And, now there's like a lot of Black people in jail, and now jails are for profit. So they literally have Black people working to make things for no money or for cents on the dollar, which again is what? Slavery! Yeah. Like it's so like slavery is disguised as prison labor. It's like ridiculous, and like it is a really good documentary, and like please watch it, even though like that is like one of the biggest things from it. Like there are really great documentaries out there, and like Leah, like when I had Marissa and Adrian on before, that's what we talked about, how like like when you grow up, I feel like we were taught that like racism was over. Like the civil rights happened, and so racism is over. You know what I mean? But like that is literally the mentality that I got from school. Like, even though I didn't necessarily think that was true, literally because of how other people acted. And I was also a little more sheltered than that because the high school I went to, we were very diverse. Like people, like white people at my school always said the joke of like, I'm the real minority at this school. And everyone would laugh because it's like, my school is mostly like Hispanic and Asian, like, you know, like,
Yeah.
but like, so it's just like, I was a little sheltered from that, but like, I would still experience things through my lives where I'm like, I think that's racism, but like, you know, like, you're just like, but you had that whole mentality of like, school taught me that racism is over.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Like, and that makes you think a certain way. Like, if you think these things are over and stuff like that, that helps you think that these Black people who have been sent to prison, like, yeah, they must be a criminal then, right? Like, they smoked weed, and so, like, they deserve to go to jail for a very long time. Like, it puts those thoughts in your head because, like, we were, again, fed the sentiment, racism is over. It's fine. Everyone's equal. So the people who belong in prison, like, who are in prison, definitely belong in prison. And it's just like, no,
right?
that's
no, they don't. That's exactly what I thought too. I just thought, well, the people who go to prison, they deserve that, or things like that. I was sheltered in that sense too. The high school I went to is majority Hispanic, then there's us as Asians and little Black community, and like probably a few white people, you know. So I was just like, hey, you know, and it really didn't feel like, yeah, I always thought, I mean, sure, there's racist comments, but I never thought of this as a day-to-day thing, that this is still happening. And like what you said, the comparison of, you know, you look at college bros smoking weed and it's like, oh, that's cool, or oh, they're potheads. But I mean, even now, the glamorization of marijuana, and you look at these like really fancy, like Apple, it looks like Apple Store dispensaries, but then there's still people in prison just for selling weed. Like, that's just,
or even just smoking weed in public, like,
yeah, or just smoking weed. Exactly, they're just smoking, and then they're in prison. But now we can like make this so I don't know. It's just, it's frustrating, right? When you get to realize these things, and how we as a Filipino community perpetuate it. And yet, though, we also have benefited from Black culture. You know, a lot of artists. Ruby Ibarra said it best in the Panayism.
yeah,
She's like, I have, and I'm learning to be more aware of that. I love what she said. I loved how truthful she was, you know, and honest in that recognition. I mean, in the dance community, I'm sure that you've discussed that. I mean, our San Diego community, we are a very dance friendly community, hip hop friendly community. Like, we are dance culture. I mean, people look at Filipinos like, oh, they're great singers, they're great dancers and all that. But where does that really stem from? Yet, again, celebrating Black culture, but not being there for the community and recognizing these things and speaking up against these issues. That's where we have benefited. That's where anti-Blackness comes from, when we don't support, you know, when we don't recognize that.
Yeah. So Ruby Ibarra, if you guys don't know, is like a very popular, very successful hip hop Filipino artist. Like, she's really great, and she just like I agree with what Leah said, because she just like did not try to sugarcoat it. She's like, I benefited off of Black culture, so I benefited off of Black people. And she's like, and I have to take, you know, like responsibility for that and try to understand what that means. And she was just there, like, you know, a lot of people know who she is. A lot of people, Filipinos, look up to her. And she was just like, I'm here to mostly like listen and learn, because that's where I am right now. And I think her saying that, like, her basically admitting what was happening and, you know, like that she needs to learn because this is wrong, was so just strong, you know, like, I feel like when our leaders like that, and like, I don't know if she feels like a leader, but you know, like when you're an artist and you're popular and stuff, you have influence, like, and that's the thing. And so for her to like admit it and just be like, I was in the wrong, like, I need to learn, you know, like there's things that I can do better. Like, I thought that was super strong, like, because there was no trying to like defend herself. There was none of that. It was just like, this is what's happening. I have to see that. Like, we all have to see that. And I was just like, yeah, like, it was super, like, you know, like, stand and clap time, because that's what a lot of people, unfortunately, in our community are not doing. When they look away. Like, there's a lot of, I've been talking to different people, like in our San Diego dance community. I've been talking to other people that I know, people in my family, family friends, who just like, they do hip hop dance and stuff like that. And like all the weird different things of like their fellow Filipino or fellow like Asian hip hop dancers, they don't they don't want to be a part of it. Like they think it's dangerous for them. And I'm like, all right, how is it dangerous for you? You're not Black.
What? You're not.
Like,
sorry.
Like what? Like it, like, you know, like, and the mentality, and like, that's the thing, like, that's the privilege thing. Like, you come from this place of fear, but you don't even understand, like, you are fine. Like, you know, and like, I feel like there's also this distraction of like, it's very true. There's more hate crimes against Asians right now because of COVID, you know, and like, that sucks. And obviously that is very wrong. But what we're facing with COVID is nothing like what Black people face today, because it's something they've had to face for decades. Like for the whole goddamn time, you know, like the whole damn time. Like that's what they
generations and generations of it.
Yeah, like hundreds and hundreds of years. So it's just like, it's not the same. It's still wrong. Obviously it's still wrong, but you can't just like use that to just like look away or be like, I don't need to worry about them. And I'm just like, again, once we free Black people, everyone will be free. Like this won't happen. I'm going to read, Benita wrote like a big thing, but
I saw here.
It's sad and frustrating that I still have friends, no longer, and family members that are proud to be Filipino and immigrants, but they don't care about the history of the civil rights movement, BLM, and LGBTQ movements, immigrants' rights movements, injustice, resistance against divisive and authoritarian leaders, and them only care about their big homes and tax returns. They think that their struggle to be an American citizen and present their economics are all that matter to them. And they don't, like,
I know it cuts off from there. Oh man. Maybe in the main comments.
I don't know. I'm just gonna go to Emma's and we can like respond. So true, systemic racism against Black people is real. Just take a look at the predominantly Black neighborhoods versus predominantly white neighborhoods. Alcohol and cigarettes are readily accessible near Black neighborhoods, schools, and it's much harder for them to get access to proper health care and nutrition compared to white counterparts. In New Orleans, many Black people are dying of COVID because they lack proper medical attention. But in the white area of the same town, there's only it all gets cut off. I'm sorry. But you both bring up great points. Thank you. And I'm sorry that it's getting like cut off. But like going back to Benito's, like it is really sad and true, because you would think like like, you know, like you are an immigrant, like our parents, like our grandparents, like they're immigrants, and it sucks. It just sucks. It sucks that it's like that compassion, you know, that, you know, because Filipinos, like, I feel like we're known for being super compassionate, super loving, super inviting. And it is like, I agree with Benito, it's very sad. It's very frustrating that doesn't extend on a wider scale. Right. And like, I feel like I've seen that happen to, like, you know, like where it's like you have friends over and like your parents or grandparents will be like, oh, feed them. Like, how come you're not feeding them? Right. At the same time, it's like, but if you bring home like a Black boyfriend or Black girlfriend, it's like they're looking like this. You know, where it's like that, where it's like, oh, it's fine and we're really welcoming, boom, until you hit like a hard wall.
Yeah. And but not like certain people. Like, and that's not right. That already is a definition of anti-Blackness. Like, I've had family members have told me like, oh, if you do marry a white guy, you know, because they'll take care of you. And I'm like, where's this coming from? You know, like, I've always felt like off with that. But some people, if they weren't aware, they would believe that. Oh, sure, yeah, okay, but that's not right. That's not right to define someone's worth through the color of their skin, through who they are. You know, like what you said. Like, if you bring a Black partner, then you're gonna act that way. I know there's jokes around like about that, but at the end of the day, that ain't cool. You know, that ain't cool at all. You know, and not to say like, oh, don't date white people. Like, no, it's not that. It's the fact of like that. It's the fact of like, what are you glorifying and what are you putting down? You know, you're glorifying these certain people, but you're putting down Black people because you believe them to be lower, and that's not right. That's not right. That really stems in our culture a lot, and it ain't cool. And so, yeah, I mean, thankfully that was like when I was younger. I don't hear those comments anymore. if I ever did, I'll call that out. Like, I'm not afraid anymore. And I guess I wonder, like, maybe this is a question that we can discuss too. Like, have you ever felt like before, like kind of afraid? Like, I guess before up to this point where now we're much more aware and we take it upon ourselves as allies to speak up against this. But was there moments before that you felt like, I don't want to talk about it because it's my family? Like that.
Hell yeah. Like my family and I have like our personal culture that has definitely come from Filipino / Asian culture is don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Like, and even like now, like, like my parents and I don't talk a lot. Like we just don't, like, we're not close like that. So I feel like because of that, I haven't really had to have these conversations. Most of these conversations are happening, like I'm talking with my cousins about helping them deal with how to talk about their parents. Because I mean, I don't even know yet. I don't know. Like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know. They haven't said anything to me about it. Like, so we'll see what's going to happen soon, but we just like don't talk a lot. So a lot of, for me, is the conversations of like, oh, how can you talk to, like your auntie and stuff like that. And I'm still kind of waiting for like, because my cousins have been like attacked by her uncles and stuff like that, but they haven't attacked me yet. And I'm just like waiting. I'm just like, okay, whatever. So for me, like, most of the discussion and most of like the hard conversations have been being had and things like this, and addressing it with each other, or like addressing like how hard it is to see it, and how our elders are not so down all the time in general. And then also, like, for me, it's a lot of it is like discussing it in like the organizations I'm in. That's where most of my conversations have been, because those are the places I'm in daily. But like my parents and I just don't talk enough like about it. And like, so like we just don't talk enough in general. So it just doesn't happen. But if it comes up, it's definitely, I'm going to bring it up. But I remember when I was little, like there were definitely times where like my mom would say stuff and like I tried to bring it up and I was like super shut down. Like, like with things where it's like, oh, well, I have Black friends. Like, how dare you? And I'm like, still what you said is so racist, Mom.
What you just said. Yeah.
And like, I think that, like, that's so much like that, like, I feel like that's like a big thing that I've heard a lot, like, I can't be racist. I'm Filipino. I'm brown. I'm not white. I'm not white, so I'm not racist. And I'm like, you are though. Like,
just because you're a person of color doesn't mean you don't get a pass.
Yeah, no, you don't get a pass, man.
You don't get a pass.
No,
you don't
get a pass.
No, you don't get a pass at all. At all.
Yeah, and having like a Black friend does not give you a pass.
No, it doesn't.
Like, that's
even having a Black spouse does not give you a pass. Having Black children does not give you a pass. No,
we all have to do the work. Like, exactly. We all do. Like, we as Filipino women will never know what it's like to be a Black person. We won't. Like, we are privileged. We have like that stereotype that we'll get into in a little bit, because I just kind of want to read this person's comment, because they also wrote a long comment, so I feel like we should read it. But like, we have our stereotypes and stuff against us, but it's just like, like buying into the model minority myth. Again, there's like a long history of that, like being like a divide and conquer tactic between minorities. Like that's we have been pitted against Black people because of the model minority myth and buying into it. Sorry, I'm gonna read this.
That's my friend Chris.
Hi, Leah's friend Chris.
He's amazing. He lives in New York, and he had been going to the protests like every day. Very well educated, especially in like political science and all that. But yeah. Hi, Chris.
What is the wealth gap? It is a stark divide between how much capital white people and Black people control. By one estimate, the white family has the wealth of $171,000. This is nearly 10 times greater than the $1,750 for the average Black family. Put another way, the typical Black household remains poorer than 80% of white households. The stunning wealth gap between races has persisted in good times and in bad for the past 70 years. It did not get better after the civil rights. And I feel like, again, like that definitely leads into like what we don't think about. And again, people, Filipino people, Asian people, like buying into that model minority myth, right? Like there's people who will see that and be like, oh, it's just because they don't work hard enough.
I hate that.
Like, like when you say that, like, it's just like when I hear people say that, I'm like, you obviously don't understand poverty. Like, and you don't understand how much, and you were so privileged. Because yes, like that is a great, like, showing of like that is part of systemic racism, that wealth gap exists, and it's been like that, like he said. And like the thing is, like, Asians came in, and we were just praised and whatever as like the hard workers and stuff like that, which like gave us the wrong information as a people, that Black people were just lazy, that they're just lazy and criminals. And it's just like, that was never the truth. Nope. Like it was never the truth, but like, like we bought it. And, like being Filipino and Asian, it's very much like, keep your head down, assimilate, be American. What does be American mean? Be white. That's what be American means. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what that is. Like, like that's what that is. Like when people say like you need to be more American, like assimilate and stuff like that, they're not talking about like, they're just talking about white people. Like, like
be white.
Yeah, like that's basically what they're saying. And it's so interesting because it lives so deeply in our country, like, and in the Philippines, like, the fact that like a lot of Filipinos love country music. Like that is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just like, also it's just like, again, you're relating to more of like, a very Western Americanized white thing. Like, I don't know, it's just like really deeply embedded and rooted.
Yes. Like it comes from our home, our mother country. That was already happening, anti-Blackness there. Then here in America, anti-Blackness here. So it's that awareness. That brings me to that when you were talking about like, being the ideal person, don't kind of like are already in our culture, like not to talk back and being respectful and all that. That's like, as I was saying, we have to be respectful to white people. Then we're already claiming ourselves to be oppressed. Like what? And it reminds me of like what my friend shared with me, because we went to the caravan protest, and one of my friends shared how she was talking to her mom about what's going on, and her mom's like, why do you even care? Like, why does this matter? Like, so she's from a military family, my friend, and her mom said, like, you got through school because your dad was in the Navy. Like, why are you fighting the government? Like, why are you biting the hand that feeds you? Like, making her feel bad. And then she's like, well, one, I didn't ask for that. Like, it's like, and it's like, but just because like that family had, and me too, I've gotten my community college paid for because my dad was in the Navy. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't question what's going on in our country. We are citizens. We have the right to speak out, to voice out. And we shouldn't just do it with our own culture. As citizens, we should do it for everyone, especially the Black community, who are just rightful American citizens as us, and it's just very, when I heard that, I felt for her, because you're unfortunately, you are in that place where sometimes you have parents or families that will just think that way, right? And just, they believe that. And I think I told her, like, the fact that you're still out here and you're still fighting the fight, you're still speaking up, even though that led you to an argument with your parents or not understanding, you voiced out, and that's because you believe in civil rights, you believe in human freaking rights, and it's unfortunate. Like I didn't have that same conversation with me and my dad had a very healthy conversation about it, thankfully, because I think He just has a different perspective, so he understood, what was going on. But I know some of us, some other Filipinos don't get that. They're faced with, you know, not open-minded parents because of what they only believe. So I think the best that we can do is just, at least the conversation's not easy, but I mean, saying something and then just doing you, showing up,
Yeah.
educating yourself, educating friends, being part of the community, or like what you do, Trixie, of amplifying Black voices, buy from Black businesses, from Black creatives, like things like that. Like my skincare, like I'm like my skincare, I updated with a Black owned business, or I've been supporting more restaurants. Like, what can we do to help the community? First, what can we do with ourselves? But if we unfortunately can't make that progress, at least we planted that seed to speak up. And then what can we do surrounding in our community? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely look at like your whole, like how you're like living your life and how to just like, help the Black community. Like you can, like you said, like, shop Black businesses. Like we know, like, like we just talked about that wealth gap from like Chris. It's like, you can't solve that by yourself, but what can you do? Like buying from Black businesses, super easy for things that you already like purchase things for. Like
you already,
buy it. It's not that hard. Like, like you can do little things like there, and that's not saying those little things are enough, but it's just like, that's a way to bring it into like your lifestyle and just like a means of like really easily supporting and continually supporting the Black community. And I want to go back actually to what you were saying about like the whole like Navy thing, like, because like my college was paid, like it wasn't fully paid for, but I don't think that my parents could have afforded me going to UCSD without like the assistance, because the amount that got knocked off my tuition was ridiculous. It was like,
yay.
It was a lot. It was ridiculous how much got knocked off. Like I barely, like from where the amount started, I feel like I barely paid for anything. Like it was so expensive because I had to move to San Diego, but whatever. Like, but like a lot of it got knocked off, and like military families and stuff like that. Like a lot of our parents are loyal because of that. Like they're military men. Like, and even though like my father hasn't straight up said it, but he's like alluded, very like obviously alluded to the fact that, like he was pushed around because he's a Filipino cook in the Navy, like, but he's also very like, he is like very American, like he's very patriotic, like, which a lot of our families are, because again, like because they were in the Navy, because they were in the Air Force, because they have that. But it really sucks when that translates into my America can do no wrong, and because
America's done so wrong,
and it's just like, also like, don't you remember, like Black people were serving for America too, and they, what they did, they had to go first. They were always like the first line of people to go get killed in wars. Like, Black people serve too. Like, it's just, it's just like really confusing sometimes, because it's like, I know,
the
know
glorification of whiteness that we have to abolish, honestly. Like that glorification.
Yes. Against white supremacy. Boo, white supremacy.
Yeah. Boo. Yeah. Oh, completely.
Yeah, like, but like, and then I feel like, but like the sentiments and stuff like that, that's what's hard, because I don't think that, our elders and people like, like that woman's mom, like, I don't think she thinks she's upholding white supremacy. I think she's just like, yeah, why would you bite the hand that feeds you? Like, America gave us everything. We should be grateful. And it's just like, you can be grateful and still say something is wrong. Yeah. And but that's the thing in our culture. That seemed like that is not a thing. Like, you are grateful, and basically if you shut up and do what I say,
then just don't say anything. You're grateful. Like
you're respectful if you don't challenge me. And so like that, you know what I mean? Like, right? Like, you're not supposed to challenge your elders. Like, that's not a thing. So like, obviously that's gonna translate to authority. Like, you're respectful. Like, why are you questioning, like she said, like the government, like, why are you questioning them? They feed you and stuff like that. And so it's just like, I don't feel like they're wanting to again uphold white supremacy. I just they're missing it. Like they have their frame of mind, which, you know, a lot of times when you're an immigrant, it's like your mindset is survival.
Yep.
You know, like trying to survive a new country and make it. But like, but it's just like, that's why we need to have these conversations with them, because I just don't think that that other way of thinking, you know, the fact that like this is upholding white supremacy in this way, you know what I mean? Like let's look at this, like that's not in their thoughts, because and it's not what they're meaning to do. So it's really it can be really hard for them, you know. It's like, you know, you say something and people are like, I'm not racist. Are you calling me racist? Just like I literally never said racist. So it's like
they jump to that. That's
right?
true.
So like, you know that there's an inkling that there's something wrong, but people get really defensive, and it's just like, I not say that, auntie, like, you know what I mean? It's just like, I not say that. You know, I like, or, you know, like they do jump to that, and it's just like, okay, you know that racism is wrong. They know that racism is wrong. So it's like,
but they don't want to be held accountable for their work.
So it's just like, I don't like, and I mean, again, like that's why these are hard conversations, because it's not even about you know, because you can't just be like, let's get into an argument to prove that you're racist, because like you're never going to win that one, because they're gonna like, it's just like, let's talk about how certain things can like have anti-Black sentiments in them, you know, that even I do, you know, like that we're not aware of, that we don't mean to be. And you know, like those conversations are hard and they're tiring, because you're just like, why isn't this obvious? But then that's not helpful. You know, something that's obvious to you is not obvious to another person. And again, like this has to do with like years and years of culture, like of their culture, and like things that we've all been fed. And so it's like, you know, the conversation's going to have to go on for a very, very long time, which is okay.
It is. This is not a trend. It's not a hashtag. It is a movement that it's a marathon. You know, Black people have been fighting this their whole life, their children, their grandchildren, all that. This has been going on for that. And this is something as an ally that we have to uphold too, and have to speak up, and just like what you were saying too, it's interesting how, you know, family members, elders, so forth, or people who think that way, they're like, but I'm not racist, but this is this. It's like, I like what you said, and maybe that's what we should saying, like, we are addressing anti-Blackness in ourselves, in our culture that's been deep rooted, and we address it so we can understand it, and how can we change that now, you know, and how can we just be better people, and not, and always having an open mind. I think that's the biggest thing, is to have an open mind, to talk it out, and to, I mean, not just talk it out, but also set the example, be the example, you know, because and I'm glad that's where I'm glad with social media, because I've learned through it, and I'm glad we share through it. And also, other than social media too, is just actively participating in the community, or using your platform in ways you can. I want to work on that more, you know, looking to Black filmmakers more, you know, expanding that community, understanding that, and just really broadening my perspectives and understanding as well. It's just a lot, but it's worth it. It's completely worth it, because I think with this change, the more and more that people do it, the more that we bring this awareness to the community, the better allies to be, the better the change that we can bring to be much more empathetic people, and to diminish the white supremacy, diminish the to call out these crimes against Black people.
Less killing of Black people, like less ridiculous, less killing of Black people. Like there's been so many disgusting things that have happened to them, terrible, caught on camera, and still apparently like it's not enough evidence, you know, like it's just like not enough for some reason. It's just like, okay, well, and yeah, like you said, like it's a lot of work, but it's really worth it. And I kind of want to, you know, and having those talks like are definitely worth it. And I want to point out that, you know, something that they pointed out in Panaista's thing pointed out, where some people were like, I'm sitting with my parents. Like a lot of the students that were there watching, like the college students, they're like, I'm sitting like, you know, like with my Lola, like I'm sitting with my parents. And I'm like, what a great way. Like go to the panels, like go to the panels, like, you know, whatever panels, like whoever you are, there's different panels for like different people and reaching out to different, you know, ethnic backgrounds and stuff. And it's kind of cool that everyone's having their own thing to be like, every community is being like, how can we be better allies for Black people? And like, that's a great way too, because, you know, having those conversations are hard. Not all of us like are great with talking. Like, and that's a thing. Like, that's a thing. And that's fine. Like, I thought like when I heard that, I was like, damn, that's so smart. Like, and how simple too.
Use other resources. Use other people.
Other resources.
Yeah.
Use that, because it's just like, you know, in those panels, obviously in all those panels, there are Black panelists, because that has to be part of it. So they're part of like,
they have to be part of it. Exactly.
They have to be part of it. And so like, it's a really, but also like there are panels who are also Filipino. So I feel like for them, for family members, for like our elders who are not used to this conversation, like that's a great way. Like I just think that like it's a great way, because also the panelists are older too. And you know, sometimes it's like your auntie will listen to someone, like the whole respect thing. Like sometimes your auntie don't want to listen to you because she's your auntie and she's like, but you know, but if it's like, oh, this is a professor at USF,
I got their PhD.
They have their PhD. Yeah, like they're smart, you know, like and it's just like, even though that might be annoying to us, but it's just like it doesn't matter, because it's like not about us. Like if it works and that works, like that should be what it is. And like bringing them to the panels on Zoom and stuff, like it. I hate quarantine, but like the fact like these panels being on Zoom and stuff and being accessible to everyone, like you can literally freaking sit down your Lola and, you know, like you can watch a recording and take pee breaks, you know, for your Lola, and it's totally fine. Like and you can like it's like such
you
a
can
great
pause it
tool.
Right. If it's recorded before, which I highly recommend everyone to go to their page and watch it. It's it's there. It's so great. If for those who want to be better allies and learn more, whoever missed that panel, please go on it, because it's enlightening both of us, definitely. And to hear it from educators and professionals and people, activists and different people in different fields and music, and in a way Trixi's right. Like if we, because those conversations are hard, because it's a personal thing, right? It's interesting that a third party usually, and that's kind of like in general, right? Like a third party, somehow you may not believe your parent, spouse, brother, sister, you're like, oh, you know, but if there's someone else that says it, you're like, oh yeah, like, oh, and you're like, I said the same thing, but it's not about us. Like what you said beautifully, it's not about us. And we use those platforms, movies, documentaries, sit down, like, you know, show that this is a historic systemic thing, but coming from your mouth, it may, I mean, it's great if you try, awesome. Or if you don't have that relationship to have that space, then that option is beautiful. So really look out for those. And unfortunately, like to reiterate what you said, like it is tough to being in quarantine, but at the same time, the accessibility of these events is amazing. And even like your show too, people can sit down and watch and understand from the comfort of their own home, you know. So great. So there's no excuse not to educate yourself, pretty much. No one has any excuse, really. But it all takes steps, right? And so, and just know that, like, and it's discussions like these that we can really enlighten ourselves and talk and bring that awareness even more.
And you know, like I want to bring this up, you know, like I bring people in hopes that, like, especially with when I bring other Filipino Americans, Asians, that like, you know, like, you know, because it's super weird. But if there's this thing, it's like, you know, they might not want to talk to you about this, but you tell them like, oh, auntie, like I'm in this video, like I did this live show, like, and then it takes, you know what I mean? Then for some reason it takes on a different thing in their head where it's like, oh, I'm watching you on TV, or like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm watching you on a thing, like you got to be on a thing, like I'm going to your performance, you know, it turns into something like that. Like, and that's always my hopes, where it's just like, yeah, show it to your family, like, and brag that you were on the thing, because I all I care about is that they like try to listen. Like, that's always what I hope like happens, that, you know, like, because the thing is like people care. People just like, honestly, like people just care more if it involves someone that they actually love.
Oh,
do you know what I mean? Like it's true. It's just like the more you can humanize it, like people just care more. So it's just like those are always my hopes. Like, and I come have different people and hoping that like, look, like your you know your little like niece or nephew, they care. Like they're talking about it. Like, oh, maybe it's important, you know, like to be proud of them like that way. Because yeah, like it's just really interesting how like people's minds work, and like it's just different, right? It's just like they don't want to sit at you at home. They want to see you because you're presenting somewhere, because you're on a show somewhere. They do, you know, like that mentality shift, to find those little like tricks and stuff to be like, yeah, like
let's use that to our advantage, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting how support works in that way. Like we can't. It's like kind of like with mental health, right? Like I can't talk about that, you know, like directly with you. But then if I watch you on your show and you're sharing it, oh, I can understand you better. So I mean, use those platforms and say those things, right? But it's just like, oh, just it works that way.
Yeah, it works. It works. You're like, okay.
All right. However you receive the information is how you receive it. And yeah, I think that you saying that, it's because they believe it because you have showed up to talk about it and you're consistent and things like that. So it's us setting that example of not only showing up because like everyone's showing up, but continuing to show up when no one shows up, or it's just not like, you know, with the protests dying down, but not really. They're just not televising it more, you know. But these crimes are still happening. People are still getting killed. Black people are still getting killed or gone missing, or you know, things like that, or just people are still racist out there. So we have to keep on keeping on. So yeah.
I need to ask you like an ending question, and I don't know what I'm going to ask you. I guess, okay, here, we'll end with this. What is the most important thing you've learned so far, I guess, in, you know, your journey to be a better ally? Or what has affected you the most? What are those? Say, go.
Okay. I might start rambling, so I mean, I have, but like, but one thing that came to mind right when you asked that, I think it's the fact that if there's something I thought was like right, or I believed in, but someone of the Black community is like, no, you know, it's being open-minded. That's what I've learned, you know, kind of like, or someone, not to call me out, but to kind of guide me in another direction. Like, oh, have you thought of this perspective? And it's keeping that open mind that there's things that I should unlearn, that it's okay to unlearn and relearn, you know, because when you can see that you get all this information, you're like, oh yeah, I know everything. And you might make a mistake, you know, I could still be ignorant about something, you know. It's accepting that and being aware of that and changing that, or being like, oh, one example this was brought up by my friend Rachel, and I didn't think about this because I was watching her stories, and she shared this thing about people say abolish the police, but they say to convict the killers, the police murders of Breonna Taylor. But the long run is that we have to reform the system. So why are we adding to the system, you know, saying like, oh, they should be in prison, but it's like, it's kind of like, what is the long-term goal of that, you know? Because if we're saying to arrest, like the system of that, like how can we say to arrest them if that's part of the system? Then it's just like, but they should, like, of course they should face those consequences, but more so it's like just a lot, like how can we say abolish the police when they are the police, you know? So it's like they're gonna get away with stuff like that. One of the officers of George Floyd, he got on bail, right? So it's like these things are, that's the system, right? And it's kind of being more aware. For me, I'm being more open in terms of like the politics and all that, and questioning everything, you know, questioning even my consumerism, questioning what I'm eating that I haven't eaten. And if someone who is much more aware or knows this or more knowledgeable to come and educate me, that I have to be more open-minded to understand that, right? And so or simple things like going down, like people kind of making Brianna's name like into memes, like, oh, like anyways, Brianna Taylor, blah blah blah, like, you know. And it's like, and someone brought that up, like, why are we making her a meme? Like, she's not a meme, she's a person that lost her life. And I'm like, wow, like you think you're helping but you're not. Like, it's that shift of mindset. So I think it's, if there's times where I've made a mistake or all that, then I'm okay with fixing that. I'm okay with, I have to learn to be okay, and which I am, is to be, oh, I didn't know that, I'm sorry, let me fix that right away. Let me just unlearning, relearning for me. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, that's a great thing. I feel like unlearning and relearning is definitely like a big thing that we all have to do. So I'm really glad that you brought that up and just being open-minded to it. Because, you know, it really can't just be like, oh, my mom or my auntie or like my uncle or you white man, you know what I mean? Like pointing, like, like, yes, we have to hold each other accountable, but honestly, if you never do this, like, it's not helpful. Like, you have to be like, oh, me, I can see, yeah, like it has to be like, oh, me, I'm perpetuating that, or like, you know, like, and we're all gonna make, like you said, we're all gonna make mistakes. I'm sure there's so many other things I'm ignorant to still, and that's fine. Like, it's fine if I'm willing.
You're willing to change.
Yeah, what if I'm willing to change, and like when it comes along and someone tries to educate me, like that I can actually be open to it. Like, that's all that matters. It's not about perfection. It's about getting better. Like, again, it's like, it's a long-term marathon thing. It's not like a sprint, because it's just not going to work. So yeah, that was a great answer. And I want to thank you for coming on again, to being part of the show. This was like a wonderful conversation. I love that our parents did the same thing to us with the same, with Bello. Did you saw Bello?
Dude, the Bello. That's funny. You talked about the colored caps. I was like, I had you brought me back. I was like, it's blue and pink. Like, that's what I remember. Daytime, nighttime. Like,
yeah. So much, okay, see, now I know what it is.
So much skin, like, why do I need so much skincare? Like, are you sure?
Like, oh, I'm bleaching your skin, and you're like, oh,
okay,
that makes sense now.
Yeah, and then I didn't even use that long term. Sorry, we're probably gonna talk about. That's our next discussion. What?
So thank you for coming and speaking to everyone out there. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. Thank you, like, for showing up and also being open-minded, like, with us. Like, I hope this helps you, you know, to like open your mind. I hope it encourages you, if you've already been doing the work, to keep doing it, because you're not alone in doing it. We're doing it too. Yeah, like, we are in this together. We're in this together. We're having the talks within our community, so we can, again, be better allies to the Black community. And like, that's what needs to be done. It's beautiful. So we just got to keep going, like Leah said. Have a wonderful rest of your night, everyone. And I will hope to see you next week. Bye.